1.2 public forum.
It was public.
Expiring on 23 consent.
Thank you. There being no further public forum speakers, I so move that we receive Anna and Joe's presentation. I have a seconder. Yep, please. Good. All in favour? No. Item 1.3. Are there any additional items? None.
Yeah. General business.
Under this top item.
And on the input into the agenda, somewhere we can discuss them. Yeah, discuss them. We can do that after maybe the action schedule. Okay. Can I bring that up? That's a good question. With this agenda, Brian, did you have involved in drafting of the agenda?
but the items were on there, so.
So there was, he raised matters which are covered.
Yes.
Well, we don't set the agenda as such, it comes to us.
Preset.
It's preset, yeah.
Sure, but
That's the right way of doing
you had say in the agenda.
Well, I am consulted, I suppose, on the items. I would love to add to them or.
What do you want to title?
But,
Is this
future.
Through the chair's work, there is a process being developed to enable the chair to be consulted on the development of the agenda, and our RST is working on that. And also in your networking, you'll be able to look at the upcoming agenda and also the upcoming agenda for the networkings. And in that form, you'll be able to sort of structure, the timings of things and planning towards things. But certainly the chair being consulted is something that RST is putting in place.
Happening.
I think there were a couple of instances where the timings didn't quite work and it wasn't quite done in time, but my understanding is the chair will be consulted every time about an upcoming agenda. And also, again, in the networking, there'll be a chance to generally talk about what's coming in front of us and sort of feed the chair with the information that he or she needs.
I might be a little bit slow, but it seems to me we have this item on the agenda every time about items put on the agenda. And we can't put anything on the agenda. So that's a waste of time for a start. So maybe we should be.
Telling us that this is something for the future for forward planning. It's stuff that's happened in the past is our problem. It's not the future. It's what's happened. And if we look at what's happening around our area with, I mentioned at Parks and Reserves, we seem to continually asking questions and not getting much of an answer. Problems with the sand seems a continual problem. So yeah, maybe this 1.3 items not on the agenda is a chance to address some of this. We will certainly look into it.
And 1.3 and answer some of those questions for you.
I think with respect through the chair, is we're not talking about the network meetings, we're talking about this meeting. This is the meeting here that we want to be able to have input to the chair, to the meeting through the chair. And I think that's what's been missing out. So not the network meeting, that's something new, just this is standard stuff.
I think too, as a member, I want to know when that's happening. So if I want to get something there, I can talk to Warwick beforehand and say, and also to give a heads up to council staff, we need information about that. So we actually need to know about the time. So if we're going to get something there, when do we need to do it? That would be really helpful to know that.
Time frame, deadlines.
Yeah.
Understood.
Did you put a motion in, Terry?
I'd like to raise it in general business, but I'll certainly like to have some sort of support around the motion to say that we need this information check out. I'm not sure if this is the right moment to do it, but definitely in general business, we need to discuss it.
No, so we don't have a motion. Are there any conflicts of interest? Anyone have any conflicts? If not, Move on. Point 5, the minutes for confirmation. Can I have a move and a second, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any matters?
Nothing rising out of there for me.
The, representation or not on different groups that to be discussed at this meeting.
Supposed to be at your next networking meeting.
Thank you.
All right. And a move and a second. All in favour, please? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Item 2.1, annual plan.
You bring the document up on the screen.
Can I have a move and a second?
What's the? Hey,
We receive draft 23-24 annual plan. Tairua-Pauanui Community Board submission report dated
We'll just wait till the up. There we go. So we'll just work through the submission.
Do that up.
But had to read it. So, yeah, so this is, Warwick and I went through this, like last week. So just get something down on paper for the board to actually have a discussion about each item.
You need to think really hard about how you can support them.
Yeah, I think on that, some of you were aware that we had a meeting of the church annex on a helping hand for businesses. I'd have to say, and personally, I thought it was rushed. It was not advertised very well. So we didn't have a lot of businesses attended. There's only a handful that were there. The gentleman that ran it, and I cannot think of his name, he'd only been in the job for months. But those that did attend, took some documents away with them to fill in. I personally went across the road and saw the Indians and the Asians, gave them forms. They weren't aware of it. Let's have it since. Sure. The first round is closed now.
To equate with the figure showing the lack of traffic that is coming.
Yeah, on the bridge, yeah.
The bridge gets best about 50 per each other.
So, is the community board happy with that wording? You want to change that wording at all?
I like to leave the word very. Challenging.
Very challenging.
Very challenging.
Yeah, it's, yeah, that. Yeah.
And it's going to be ongoing too. It's not just a,
That's all.
not just a one-off. It is. Do we need to add something in there that, the foreseeable future or some, like, one words? I don't know. Yeah,
Will be ongoing financial impact.
I mean, who knows what's going on with 25A? There's a lot of reports coming out, but wow.
And then even settled on planning and it's amazing.
I don't know quite where to put it into this, it's a mission, it's true. Really, these are just questions to be asked, and then part of it.
Okay,
So,
That's what I want to say is.
so we're
so
gonna,
proposed rates increase will leave the community board acknowledge this is a very challenging time for the district and the need for council to carefully consider the financial impact on the ratepayers. Do you want to actually specifically say that you support the 12.9 rate increase for the Tairua ratepayers, or you oppose it?
Don't support that at all.
Okay.
Okay, well, needs to be up there.
yeah,
Right.
It's a hell of a big jump.
So you just put oppose the,
Oppose the 12.9 rate increase.
yeah.
Yeah, Tairua-Pauanui seems to have the highest rate increase in the whole bloody deal.
12.9, sorry.
Not quite.
12.9014 for the anchor, but it's 12.9 on a high rate anyway, so it's not like on a low rate.
Yeah. Jerry, just in terms of percentage you spend, my understanding is that the percentage of spend in our ward is lower than the percentage of rate paying base. Is that correct?
That's what I've been asking for the. And I've got a controversial thing back saying we can't actually work those figures out. I haven't stopped it. I will continue on that, but it's not easy, and I've asked for some other information. I'll be asking for the third time later this week, and we'll just see what happens, but.
So at council, when it makes the decisions on district funding, that's where everybody pays the bill.
Yeah.
So district funding is arranged on the amount of support for a project. And if the votes are 5, that they get that project. Then it goes into the program, and then it's discussion about where it fits in terms of when it's done. And that's up to the staff side to come back with a CapEx program saying, this is what they're planning to do this year, and this is the cost of it. Then that number climbs up to, it's 40-50 million dollars. At the moment, it's $48 million. And then they try to achieve that within that period of time. When it's locally funded rates, it's what you wanted to have paid for those 7 items in your area that you want to fund yourselves. And that comes from local funding, and it's very much up to what happens around this community board.
Yeah.
That's where it should be. And a bit worrying about where that's going, but that's what's supposed to happen. So those are the 2 criteria. One's a vote at council, and this one here is a vote to do something, and it goes into a plan, normally into a long-term plan that goes into a project list, and then it's decided when it should be done. And all we ask staff is, if we say we want it, is get it done. That's often where it gets into a bit of a confusion state. So that's the process at the moment. There's never any discussion over who gets more or less. It's just about who's necessary on the list to happen first. So because the 5 things that we pay district funding are the 3 waters, roading, and rubbish. So those things are really hit by demands in the area, and they have a cost that comes across the board. And outside that, we've got OPEX, which is another different side of it as well. That's about grants and those side of it.
Okay, so we're all pretty much agreed that we're against the 12.9 rate increase. So moving on.
Okay, so operational works program, Tairua-Pauanui Community Board acknowledges the need to make changes in the operational work program included in the proposed annual plan consultation document with the following. Discretionary contestable grants. Tairua-Pauanui Board support or oppose a 50% reduction in the discretionary contestable grants across the district. So that will take your 37 for your community grants. It will take your 37,000 down to 13 and a half.
18 and a half,
18 and a half, yeah. Sorry, math is that not good. And
half the discretionary.
and half your discretionary, which will take it from 20,000 to 10,000.
I think we should
So-
debate on that.
Well, the question there is how much is that going to affect our rates? How much would it affect? our
But it
rates?
doesn't, it's not really about the rates, it's that they're taking that money to try and keep the rates at a manageable level. It's like picking from different cherries to get a rate level that's 11.4, because obviously if that stays in there, it's an OPEX program and it has more of a direct effect on rates than say a CAPEX program. I think it's about $17 million, that's 1% in CAPEX, and it's about $1 million. So what is the OPEX?
Right.
Yeah, you're right. It's higher in OPEX in terms of a rate increase than the CAPEX. So
Now, this is object.
This is
this is OPEX.
Yeah.
So they're trying to cut that down. I don't support losing these grants because how are we going to look after our volunteer groups? So,
Yeah, I
And-
agree.
and I'm just throwing it out there to think about. First thing we should do is this is going to happen is make sure our halls are available free of charge so they can use them without coming around the block and getting a grant to use the hall to do that, put their volunteer group through the hall situation. So I don't support this, but
So is the board in agreement that you oppose the reduction?
I can see that the amount involved is going to make a significant difference, right? Talking $20,000.
it does have an influence. OPEX is far greater than CAPEX, but it's like, it's not a month. I think it.
K is a small amount. isn't
Yeah,
it?
I've actually got a number here. Can you know, Kelly, what the number is? OPEX. Do you know the number?
Yeah.
No, I think it'll be less than 5%.
No, this is less than 1%. This is about 0.1%. It's just if you add it up across the whole community board, it's $200,000, what they're saying, in OPEX, which is most probably a 0.5% increase in rates. So,
Well, I remember what happened last year. I mean, we did not receive the amount of applications for help
right.
last year. I'm not saying it's just going to happen again this year. There is hardship out there, so. Yeah, I think it's just the grants are a chance to give people or various associations a leg up, help.
The other option was that combine the discretionary fund with the grant, half the discretionary fund, put it
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
And you've got a figure of around $27,000. And then the board will make those decisions without going through a grant applications. It was one of the options that was chucked out there. Considering, so, I don't know, did one of the other boards do this?
Yeah, through the chair, two of the boards have met and confirmed their submissions already. And what they've done is they decided to keep their 20 grand discretionary grants and to get rid of their contestable grants altogether. Because the contestable grant process requires effort by the applicants as well as time by the board and also administration time. And the discretionary grant is cleaner to administrate. In fact, Mercury Bay have, in addition, proposed to reduce their discretionary grant by half, to take it to 10,000. So that's what those two boards are looking at. But that doesn't mean this board needs to look at the same. It'll obviously be a discussion point at the council table.
You say opposed. You say Mercury opposed.
So Mercury Bay have, in their submission, proposed to take their 20 grand discretionary grant and cut it in half to 10 and get rid of their contestable altogether. So just giving them 10,000 discretionary grant for the year.
So it was just for 1 year though, wasn't it?
Just for the 1 year, to reduce the rate impact this year.
I guess one of the questions that comes there though is in 12 months' time, are we going to be facing the same questions? I can certainly support the idea of getting rid of, I hate contestable grants. I think they're a huge amount of effort, and then somebody misses that. But if we reduce our discretionary grant, will we ever get it back? Or will it simply stay down there? We don't see economic things improving usually.
I think you've got to understand that both the two community boards, Coromandel and Mickery Bay, have never been great with discretionary grants or contestable grants. So it's always been very strong because we've looked after a lot of our volunteer groups to make sure that they are giving back to the community in some way and being able to do it. So I think Whangamatara is something like $60,000. Thames was around $100,000. I think it's about 80 at the moment, and you guys are about 27. But Mercury Bay and Coromandel have never been big in this, so it's really your call around how you want to deal with your current volunteer group.
There's a one-off and just, everyone will just scrap that grant and go.
Contestables
Yeah.
and keep your discretionary
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I mean,
for the 12 months,
for the 12 months.
for the
Yeah.
12 months.
I mean, yeah, who did we give it to last year? Was
Well,
organisation.
immediately, I think of the Pauanui Summer Program.
Yeah.
They're very reliant on grant.
it's discretionary, isn't it?
But I think if you
You can-
combine the contestable and with the discretionary, that's gives you $27,000 over instead of having 20 with your discretionary. I think that's a better deal than if you just don't get it at all. So at the moment, they're saying you're getting half your contestable and half your discretionary. That's what's in the annual plan. So if you combine them into one outfit, that's $27,000. So I'm thinking about Pauanui, because I'm thinking about what they use, and the other ones were fireworks display, but you're doing that retained earnings.
Fireworks is taken care of.
Yeah.
The, just in terms of the committee chair is very keen to actually get the flyer out through the rates, which could potentially save money coming out of retained earnings, which could be used for something else. We can get the flyer through. With the rates learned.
That's a. That's good. Yeah, as I said before, it's a time resource thing to try and get it out. But that's a discussion that we will be having again with the group.
Well, if they can, I mean, they put some volunteer time in to take some pressure off council staff, that's,
Yeah, but we'll have that discussion.
yeah,
with the group.
okay.
Right. So. Just, here, Steve.
Yeah, sorry, just through the chair, I might just ask Eileen to clarify what Terry was saying. My understanding is that the contestable grants process and the discretionary grants process are set up differently in terms of our funding agreements. So we wouldn't necessarily be able to combine them. We'd still need to
That's
run two separate processes. But what Terry's saying is that will give you 28,000 versus getting rid of contestables altogether, which would just leave you with 20 in the discretion.
Or are you saying, Terry, we get rid of the contestable grants for this year, but increase the discretionary to the 27, because there are two separate processes.
Yeah, well, I think that's, if you're going to keep that discretionary, it gives the board the chance to say, well, these are the key ones we want to look after on a 1 year off situation. So I would like to, increase that level to 27. I just think you need that kind of number just to try and get the groups over another year of stress and carry on, if that's possible.
Okay, so we,
Yeah, through the chair, not sure, but I understand that the proposal now is keep the discretionary, see if we can increase it to 25 and 28 to, sort of comparable.
Yeah.
okay, so the Tairua-Pauanui Board supports so you want to remove the contestable grants
And increase the discretionary.
for 1 year.
Move the contestant. Increase the discretion.
Yeah, so support the removal of the contestable grants. For 1 year, yep, and increase discretionary for 1 year to 28,000. And just take out across the district. Okay, so the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board support the removal of the contestable grants for 1 year and increase the discretionary grant for 1 year to 28,000.
Happy with that?
Okay, stormwater, wastewater supply investigation fees. Tairua-Pauanui Board support or oppose a reduction in budget for the stormwater, wastewater, water supply investigation fees. In supporting a reduction, you wish to say that basically you do want to keep some of that investigation fee because investigate for, yeah, so what we've got there, respect to the investigation fees. Generally, while the Tairua-Pauanui Board acknowledge the need for fiscal restraint, they submit that where possible, investigation budgets should remain in place.
That's where we are at the moment.
So it's saying there that reducing these budgets by $300,000 means less budget for underground investigations and complaint investigations. We have sufficient funding to complete the Whitianga water supply strategy study that is currently underway, but we need to resource more funding to implement any recommendations that may come from the study. So the 300K, was there investigations for stormwater here?
So when we looked at
No.
it, it was.
Not for here.
So you're going to decide now if you want to support the one that's for the angle too.
So do you support the reduction in the budget for the stormwater? And just completely remove that other line, that other paragraph.
We've got to carry on with our stormwater. Where's council sitting with this 3 waters?
The 3 waters at the moment, that they're waiting for the government to come back in about June or July after they're having a rethink about the structure of 3 waters. At the moment, the implementation of moving the assets over is still on board and still online to happen before 2024.
Well, we've been investigating stuff if the government's going to take it up.
We've been told by the government we must continue our stormwater and 3 water programs regardless. So we've got to carry on as if it's nothing going to happen, and then something might happen. We don't know. We're very much, you know more about it than I do. So
Have their cake and eat it too.
yes. Yeah, so that's the current scenario, is that it's still on track to happen, but they don't quite know how the shape's going to be. So it's business as usual for us.
Yeah.
Just through the chair, when Bruce spoke to Mercury Bay Business and General Manager for Operations last week, he did say that by, I'm trying to remember what Bruce exactly said, that by reducing the investigation fees, there still would be investigation fees across the district to enable them to look into some of the priority areas. They would just need to be prioritising and wouldn't be able to look into every action. They might have an initial look and then schedule it for an upcoming year. So he indicated there still would be budget available to investigate the priority items. And I believe that's how he conveyed it.
There'd be a very strong support to keep those investigations from the tar, but it just depends where you fit with your stormwater system.
But we'll start with some serious stormwater problems.
So going back to our submission, so the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board support a reduction in budget for the, you support or oppose a reduction in the budgets.
Well,
And the statement that we want to change the wording on that second statement.
No, I think the second statement needs to be there, because there's stuff that has to happen. Yeah. Because at a hammering as it is, we don't do any investigation of get another hammering. Which could have been prevented.
There's a lot of fish hooks in there. Oh, sorry. You know what I mean? Just a weird prioritisation. Right. They've all got problems. So just recently been very highlighted, haven't they?
Okay, so you support a reduction, or you want to say something else there?
Reduction.
You don't support a reduction? You would?
Yeah.
So the board-
We're not getting, we're personally not getting anything from it. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the board agreed to support the reduction?
Yeah.
Okay.
What else?
We need to.
It's gonna happen anyway, hasn't it?
And do the second statement, huh?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
We might not get much out of it, but we've also thank you our neighbours.
Okay, retained earnings.
So what's that? Very generous on
Yeah, I know, Chris.
So the retained earnings, so do the board opposes support retained earnings, reduction in the retained earnings to help with the local rates increase. So this is
Yeah.
your retained earnings. Was it being decreased by 50%, Terry? I found quite.
So the retained earnings of $2.6 million is coming out of the council's, the district-wide earnings, not the local.
Okay.
So that does give it a little bit more about, it's not taking your money away from projects that have rolled over and the money's been put into retained earnings. And that thing secures your funding for the skate park, which is obviously coming out of retained earnings. So in my understanding, it's the district fund for retained earnings projects.
We have that actually in our wording.
I think it says, does it say that? It actually doesn't mention tails.
No.
Retained earnings are generated when operating budgets that are underspent and are used for unbudgeted, unforeseen costs that sometimes arise. Using 2.6 million retained earnings in 2023-24 can help reduce the rates increase. That means it may be harder to fund future unplanned costs. So that's the downside of it. It's there as a bit of a safeguard. And if you take it away, the safeguard's not there. But I understand it is actually district retained earnings, not local.
I think we should.
Can you-
Just from there, maybe.
Yeah,
Can you confirm
local, go to local as well.
So just through the chair, I thought it also included the retained earnings in each ward area.
Yeah.
So that would be at the end of this financial year. You'd look at what's in TP and it might be, I don't know what it might be, it might be 500,000 and you'd use 250,000 of that to offset your local rates. That, my understanding was that was included. I'm just.
You need to find that out because I don't think there's be a lot of appetite to see retained earnings come out of local funds.
That's that's how I interpret it. And that's why I think, I mean, what difference to the rate, overall rate, local rate, was that going to make?
$2.6 million. Will have an effect.
I mean, local.
No, it's all,
the local
it's all
retained.
about the rate up there, 11.4%. So it's taking little wee bits out of all these areas to affect this number here. So it doesn't affect the local rate. Yeah. So you're not actually trying to get your local rate down, you're trying to get the district rate down. And that's why they're taking it. You know, you need to confirm that because I'm not too sure. I thought it was from because in the district, they have big jobs that roll over and they don't spend the money, big numbers. And this thing, something like Churchill Valley Road or the inspections of Pollen Street or something like that, which big numbers. Now they don't use it, that money rolls over into the next year and it becomes retained earnings. Or the project gets deferred.
That's the worry.
So just, we need to understand where that.
Okay. So Dean's going to find out so we can come back to that. The underfunded depreciation, we hadn't actually talked about that, Warwick. In addition to the above 6.7 million depreciation resulting from the revaluation isn't funded, this approach isn't sustainable. long term as depreciation is needed to fund the replacement of assets that reach beyond the useful life. Some of the project cuts from or reduced in our proposed budget can be considered as part of this 2024-2034 L2K.
So this is really important, and I support this, what the council doing there. When they did the revaluation and all the property values went up and all the assets went up, it was something like $600 million that rose in cost. So they actually have to depreciate those values of that assets, because that depreciation coming through will help fund them when they come to the end of their useful life. But in doing it, it's such a big number that we're actually taking a hit on this year of 6.something million in, 6.7 million of that depreciation fund as a one-off hit. So that will keep the rates down for this year, but next year those depreciation numbers will come back into the budget and you'll see that depreciation number start to rise again. So it's all about an unwelcome revaluation. Now we think that next year, if the property values drop down a little bit, that might be an influence, that number might come down, but the assets there will never come down. They always cost more each year to build and build and build. So we can't walk away from that. Oh, it's me, is it? So right, so it's something to consider, but in doing it as a one-off hit, we thought that was quite a prudent thing to do for 1 year. And they've had an effect on the rates, actually. It was quite an influential thing on the rates.
So does, I'm just under the, that retained earnings in that same box, Becky, we just put in there, so do the board want to make any comment on underfunded depreciation?
Oh, I think it really should be, it's a one-off only type action, because depreciation is important to pay for those assets. So my advice would be to accept it as a one-off only action to try and control the rates, which are pretty grumpy for this year.
What's the outlook for next year?
If things, the values go down, then that will drop, won't it?
No, not everything, because pumps and pipes and things don't devalue.
Yeah.
It's the land value around, so it'll have an influence on it, but it was $600 million rise, so it was grumpy. But a lot of that had to do with land price, so it would have an influence. So maybe next year the depreciation won't be as heavy as what we're looking about this year. So
what we're trying to do is spread the headache.
spread the hit. That's what we're trying to do.
And so just a new heading, Becky, underfunded depreciation. And then under that, put the Tairua-Pauanui Board, Community Board.
Support
The one or
the unfunded depreciation amount of 6.7 million.
Support the underfunded depreciation of 6.7 million.
For 1 year.
For 1 year. Million for 1 year.
Don't look at the top and the retained earnings. What do we finish up with here?
So the retained earnings with the,
Just trying to get an answer of where it comes from, because I think it made an influence
yeah.
in the discussion. We're
Yeah.
On that, just got one last question. Okay, through the chair, so there are savings across the district from retained earnings, but it is also proposing 50% from each of the ward areas to go to offset those local rates. And that would apply for all of the ward areas, apart from Thames at the moment doesn't have retained earnings or is not forecast to. I'm just trying to get you a
I
forecast.
don't think really Anglican
Now.
either, do they?
Yep. For the
Not some retained earnings?
Yep. So it's really hard because we haven't had our third quarter forecast completed yet. But they've got retained earnings.
So they didn't give you any figures at all?
So I know that for Yanga is about 350. So they're proposing to.
We're 100,000. I think you guys got the big number.
Yeah, we were about 600,000, in which case it would be cut to 300,000.
And I really needs that because that should be a fairness and equity again. So if teams haven't got any, it should only come out of district.
Yeah.
Retained earnings, not local.
Okay, so we want to change that then to the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board,
Support of districts.
the district retained earnings being reduced.
Yeah.
Not local.
Being reduced, but opposed local board retained earnings being reduced.
Reduction.
I'm happy with that.
Okay, now we go on to CapEx work program considerations. First one is Collins Street upgrade. We've just put there no comment.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How much is this proposed to cost? I'm not quite sure what they're doing here. That teams. Here, but is that the water problems or?
What's this for, Pollen?
Collins Street.
Pollen Street is an investigation for the water, wastewater and stormwater down the main street. So it was all going to go, it's like $5 million. They're only going to do an inspection side of it because the people said in the business area, we've had such a hard time for 2 years in COVID and the weather events, we want to get some business. We don't want the street dug up or the pipes put in it and everybody not want to come here. So they've said defer it for a year and only do the inspection and then we'll do the other stuff when we've got the money.
That money eventually will come out of what district?
District, yeah, it's district funded, yeah. Water, wastewater and stormwater district, yeah.
Is there a serious problem there?
Yeah, really the pipes are shagged, quite honestly, under the street. So they're old pipes that sit there and they've got leaks and they lose about 25% of their fresh water all the time. So,
It's just in Collins Street,
sorry,
the whole extent.
in Pollen Street.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there's leaks in Pollen Street, but the whole of Thames loses about 20% of its water.
So even fixing Collins Street's not going to solve the problem.
It's not going to fix the water around the areas, but this one of the areas that does need fixing. It's quite a major. So that's what they've chosen to do. The business association came back and says, can we defer it? Because we want to make some money and we don't want the street dug up. So they're going to do the investigation work, got some fancy gear that finds out where the pipes are, and then they can figure out what they're doing then. So that's the plan. That double putting up.
So Tairua-Pauanui, we've got no comment as a local Kings Community Board decision.
So interestingly, it's been district funding, but.
Yeah, no, that's how it works. District funding. I would think that Tairua-Pauanui would support the business association in deferring this work until the long-term plan. I think that's really what you're saying there, supporting what the business people want to do. If you wanted to say that, yeah, but that's really what the question's around. And do you support what's the reason why they want to defer it? Because you know, when you defer something, the costs go up. So
Basically looking at Marty and thinking, oh, no, not us too.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that they've had a hit with the businesses have had a hit in Thames.
yeah.
You know, what about the rest of the peninsula?
Well, if you're digging up the main street of
I mean,
Tairua,
look,
they
it's-
might be the same thing though, eh? I think if they dug up the main street of Waimatar, they'd be saying, I don't know if we want to do this now. You know, they're just saying it's not the right time. They're trying to keep businesses going. So I understand where they want to, where their heads are on this. So they've asked the question and says, can we defer it? Because we don't want the street dug up and no one will come here. So I can see their point. But,
When it is a good time.
well, that's right. So
Yeah.
up to you guys.
So do you want to leave that comment as is?
Already got me feet on it. Leave it as it is. Yeah, leave it as it is.
Okay, your locally funded CapEx programs. The main ones are Manaia Road Hub extension and your Pauanui Skate Bowl. So Pauanui Hub, Lanai Road Hub, Tairua-Pauanui Community Board note the reduction of CapEx budget for the 23-24 year, and the remainder being deferred to 24-25. So in the budget for this 23-24 was 230,000.
I think with the Pauanui skate bowl, there was a comment that came through from Pauanui ratepayers that they were happy to defer this. It's which I thought was pretty decent on the think that way. It's up to you guys.
Yes, so the Lanai Road Hub, the budget for the 23-24 year was 229,000. So they're looking at reducing that to 116,000, and that will enable the project to keep working at the moment. They're in the design phase. So it would enable them to keep working and then come back in the long-term plan to with the actual costings and to make a better budget in the 24-25 year for the long part of the long-term planning.
So the total budget was 200 and something, wasn't it?
The total budget is 450,000, which is 223,000 for this year and 229,000 for next year. So with a total of 451,000.
So what's this decision going to impact on the cost of the business, the project? That's what I'd like to know. Is it like going to be a 15% rise on the cost of the project, or is it going to, what's the impact?
Well,
It's nothing that's been costed, you know.
yeah, I guess the question would be, would 451,000 have been enough to do the whole project anyway, with the rising costs?
Oh, so you think that maybe not in the budget?
So I'm just sort of saying, you know.
I'm just going to say that ratepayers are going to end up paying the extra bill down the line.
Yeah.
So you got to say, you know, is the value of leaving this a wise decision or not? That's what I'm just throwing it out there. Your call, but
No, I've been in the business now for a little over 12 months. And the costs have gone up astronomical. Yes. Just incredible.
So the board either support or oppose the reduction. Do you want to oppose the reduction in the CapEx budget, or do you want to support the reduction and have the remainder deferred to the 24-25? Yeah.
But it's a barrier comment.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt,
What,
costs are going to go up.
what's the difference in rates?
impact and rates,
Yeah.
100 grand on a locally CapEx project. Sorry, I should have these numbers. Yeah. I don't know, sorry.
Yeah.
I think where you got to weigh it up is if you look at what the other projects in the other areas are doing, and you got to decide whether you support those ones. So if you support them or decline them, you've got to look at your own, what you're prepared to take or drop off your own list. So if you look under there, the Tairua-Pauanui, Thames has got the airfields and the Tairua Valley Road extension, which is, I reckon, the big risk, right? Along with Tar's got the nib curb and the extension to the Doom walkway, and the Mercury Bay's got 1, 2, 3, 4 of them really. Mercury, Matarangi's just stopped. So it's just how you feel. Again, if you feel like if you want to keep yours going, are you happy to keep the others going, or do you want to drop them out, or what?
What have the other boards been doing, Terry?
I don't know. Maybe Dean could ask. That's it.
Yeah, through the chair, we've had the initial briefings that you guys had with Kate Lewis, and most of the boards were comfortable with what was proposed by the councillors in the submission pack. And last week we had the two boards, Coromandel and Mercury Bay, firm up their submissions. And so Coromandel again remained quite comfortable with what was proposed. Mercury Bay, I believe off the top of my head, made a submission around the cycleway. But generally, they've been comfortable with, where the annual plan submission pack is landed.
Taking deferments and such.
Yeah, and the proposals by staff, to defer.
If I looked at this and said, look, you're deferring the Tairua-Pauanui skateball $500,000. You want another 100K put into the Manoa project. I think that's been pretty fair, really. You know, it's a big number you've actually deferred. And you look at Macquarie Bay, 180, 800,000, 366,000, 600,000. So the big numbers on there. And Thames was $1.4 million Tokyo Valley and 54,000 for the airports. So I don't think you know, you can put it in and try it. It doesn't.
If we don't get the hub, for Tairua, if it stays on the firm, looking at the way costs are going up, it could cost as much as we've got budgeted now on top of what we spend.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then the expansion of the hub was basically to allow for the heritage centre and the information centre. And
I think this group too was looking for a location there as well.
Yeah, so there's actually a really good one at the fishing club.
Good.
Sorry, you did.
Yeah, through the chair, Warwick. We'll just take this opportunity just to let you know about the process. So this isn't last chance saloon. You can do a submission now, and then that will land. And then obviously all of the other submissions that are made by other groups within your ward area will be in the deliberations pack that goes to councillors. If your board chair decides to speak to the submission, he can also then choose to look at some of the comments made by others within your ward and choose to add weights in his verbal submission to those arguments. And obviously your councillors are able to look at the whole shooting match of submissions and see where people lie at that point. So if there are topics that you're a little bit undecided about, you don't necessarily have to land them in your submission.
With that in mind, I think my feelings is that you should go for the hub and see where it goes.
Okay.
You're either in or you're out. So
That's true.
Okay, so the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board oppose the reduction of CapEx budget for the 20 and the project, and the remainder being deferred. Okay, so we could just leave that statement as is. Tairua-Pauanui Community Board oppose the reduction of CapEx budget, the 23-24 year, 20, okay, and then just remove and the remainder being deferred.
Yeah.
Remove that.
no, I don't think you're opposing it. I think you're supporting the Pauanui skate bowl.
Yeah, we're going to.
Oh, the next one, no, you're going to go there. Okay.
So if after 23-24 year, we can just remove the rest of that wording.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the Pauanui Skate Bowl, the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board support the deferral of 492,000.
Yeah.
Okay, solid waste.
You choose, don't you? No.
So you've got your three options there.
They're the only three.
Sorry?
They're the only three options.
Yeah.
On behalf of the Seagulls, I would like to get this leeway. I saw them doing one from the tower, they just tip it over and out they go.
Oh, and they feed the scaffolds, yeah?
No, there's little ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just can't see the economics of saving things like that. Absolutely can't see it, in little communities like this.
I'm rural living, so we keep all our food waste and compost.
Absolute waste of time. Well,
Same here, Barry.
and people want to, but
And of course, the other thing that gets me is we're putting a huge amount more in plastic, which is not going to be done. I just can't believe, I just in the loss. That's my commercial shut.
you're not obliged to shut up.
I think the
So I-
key thing here is to see this is 5.5% of the 11.4 rate rise, so it's grunting.
Yeah.
And if you look at the numbers, it's going to increase your $424.08 if you're using that one. And that's number one.
Option one, yeah.
402 in number two, and 380 in number three. So this is quite a big impact for especially those people who properties have risen, but they're still on a pretty minimum wage. So it's asset rich and cash poor, not good.
But I think the other thing that hits me is sort of currently buying a plastic a bin that gets emptied privately, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper. It seems to be incredibly expensive for what we're getting. I don't have a problem with the pay as you empty, but it just seems to be very, very expensive compared to what you would
So-
pay.
Councils doesn't have much say in this, quite honestly. We've been driven by the government. The cost of landfill is going from $20 to $60 a ton. So that's 3 times the value going straight up, just to take it over there. At the moment, they take it to Tairua, and if that Tairua, if that goes somewhere else, there's more cartage taken out of it. And you've seen the issues that we've got at the moment with just ordinary pickups at the moment. It's got all the way around through Tairua to Tairua, and a lot of guys getting over their logbook hours. So it's, I think this is just part of what's happening with the,
And the whole thing, Gisborne bring their rubbish up.
yeah, doesn't bring the rubbish up as well. And the Northland too, it comes down apparently. So what this is telling us though, that the government's really pushing the agendas here, so it's really asking us to have far more focus on local transfer station and community groups, recycling and all those things, and that's what we're wanting to say comes out of this, that okay, there's going to be a cost to the people, but we want to see some benefits coming back to the community through recycling and reuse of products that community groups can earn some money out of it and put it back into the community. At the moment, it's a contractor comes in, does it all, takes it all away, takes the money, and they want to take it to the dump, so they're looking for rubbish. We're trying to look at ways of trying to recycle it all so it doesn't go over the hill to landfill. So this is the situation.
Okay, so council's preferred option is two,
Yeah, I think.
as it provides balance between the benefits of full-time residents and holiday homeowners. Option one, under that option, full-time residents who put their bins out for every collection would likely benefit a little more than holiday owners. And option three, setting of the prepaid system at a higher price and targeted rate at a lower price would likely benefit holiday homeowners and those who do not create much waste, who are not putting their bins out every fortnight. It may also encourage people to reduce their waste further.
You can see people working with their neighbours on this.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's fair enough. And also the tag system is, once they clip it onto the drum or waste bin, it can't be tampered with. So there's some control around that. So nobody needs to go down the street and borrow their tag and stick it on yours. So there's a bit of thought.
Find a way.
How does this tag system work?
You go and buy your tag at the somewhere supermarket and you clip it on.
Yeah.
And when it locks on, they got a special tool to take it off, so no one else can take it. So,
So then you go and buy another tag next week.
yeah,
So if you want to discourage people putting it in, going with the higher rate is a no-brainer, and I know if somebody is going in with their neighbour, because I mean, the reality is full bin is full bin.
yeah, so the food bin, there's no discount or anything, it's just a food bin every week that gets picked up. So when yours is half full, somebody else will fill yours up, or when yours is full, but it doesn't matter, they'll pick one up wherever they are. The recycling bin is only when you want to put it out there on the road. And the rubbish bin is on a pickup. Did I get this right? Make sure I get this right, Dig. It's on a pickup as required. It's out on the road as well. And then you've got your glass bin that comes out on a recognised.
Picking that up.
So,
4 bins.
yes, the
Going to good when the wind blows.
recycling bin and the glass bin are just a straight flat rate, whether you use them or not, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's only the rubbish bin we pay for your extra tax.
Yeah,
And
And we spread.
yeah, am I correct or not? And having looked at all the stuff that's floating around online that says that our glass and our recycling has mostly been thrown into the bin anyway. Is that right or not right?
I can tell you that they're supposed to sort the glass out between brown, white and green, or white and white, and sort it, but I've seen it summertime.
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
It's not happened as regularly as you think.
They just throw it all in one truck. When I had the motel, I actually sorted my glass. I had 3 bins and I sorted it, and they just came and filled it all in the same truck.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's happened consistently for the last 3 or 4 years.
So we need to think about this, and one of the key areas around this is obviously try and reduce glass or reduce plastics or go to cans. Now, we looked at all these options to try and work the business around it. It'll happen. It's just when. And then really just try and take the business away from taking it to landfill where it is, because that's where it's all going.
So what happens to all that mixed glass if they just go to landfill?
Landfill.
So the vast majority of their recycling is a waste of bloody time.
Well, I'd say during the year, yes, they do sort, but during the Christmas period, I've seen where they haven't sorted. That's all I've seen.
What actually happens? Who takes the glass?
Who takes it away?
Who's processing it?
Who buys it?
Oh, well, it goes back to Auckland. They'll take a lot of broken glass and reconstitute it, melt it down again and put it with other stuff to do it. But you can buy glass cheaper from Iraq or Iran and ship to New Zealand cheaper than they can make a bottle in New Zealand. That's the problem.
So what happens to the cans? I mean, out at our transfer station at home at the moment it is a shambles. We've got, as you know, no one's picking up their rubbish bins. So we've got aluminium, tin, all mixed up together. Is actually somebody sorting that?
Yeah, they do sort that. Yeah.
Where?
Kopi sites, they sort that. They've got a machine that takes out the aluminium. It's like an aluminium magnet. You've never heard of one. I've never seen one, but it does it. Takes the aluminium out and also takes the steel out, separates it, and then it's just left the rubbish. And then that goes into another bin. So it's very
So
organised.
it all goes to Kopu.
It all goes to Kopi, yeah.
Now, the soft plastic, we had some bins out there at the transfer station, orange bins, they're gone. They're gone. They're not there anymore.
Yeah.
So and a lot of people are religiously keeping soft plastic for these post factories, but that's gone. So where the hell is that gone?
Don't know. There's a group in Wangata that picks up the soft plastics or does the they like the certain plastic bags and certain soft that they can recycle. Yeah, they've got to drop off loads of those.
Well,
But
so
it's really asking the communities to come together and build these things. Like you look at builders' waste, 50% of landfills, builders' waste. They go and buy it brand new at Bunnings, take it to the site, throw it in a bin, take it to the thing, put it in the yard, take it in a truck and throw it in a hill. So there's a lot of good stuff that can come around all that stuff, but we need groups organised.
I thought the development inspector, you're not allowed to use second-hand timber in your house. There you go.
anyway, I know we're transgressing here, but honestly, the waste management needs.
Well, most management haven't got a place at Kopu, so I don't know where they're going to sort all theirs. This is Smart Environmental's got their place.
No, I mean, the total control of waste at the moment is just a total shambles.
I think we're always mindful of the fact that these guys get paid to take stuff to landfill, so that's not worrying them about taking landfill, was we are worried. And we're saying we've got to stop this in some way.
We're paying.
We're paying.
We're paying.
Not getting into landfill, we need to disincentivize people to put out rubbish.
Yeah.
So option 3,
Option 3.
I believe, that means those people who actively reduce their rubbish are being rewarded.
Yep.
That surely has got to, in the end, it's going to have less impact on people's rates.
Okay, so all agree, all agrees with number 3, option 3?
Yeah.
Okay, wait, option 3. Okay, fees and charges. The Tairua-Pauanui Community Board has, well, you may have comment on proposed fees and charges, except the boat users be required to pay charges on the Paku boat ramp.
I think they should be charging the boat, start paying the boat in themselves. Yeah, I was always.
It would be nice.
That was the deal with the impression, as soon as it got concrete ramp, they were gonna get cars.
Yep.
Okay, so
And I am one of them.
Then,
You and, yeah. Yeah.
So here's an opportunity, and I'll put it in there with my little squeals about, that you just disagree with the parking or the launching fee, whether it is $115 if you haven't got parking areas. So these things can keep coming through, the themes that keep coming through the annual plan and long-term plan.
Yeah.
And they trigger people to think, well, maybe there's an issue. So it's your opportunity to make those noises through these type of operations. It's how it community communicates with council a lot through these plans. So if you're feeling comfortable, that's fine. If you don't, you've got an opportunity to put something on paper.
Now, we talk about your parking. We've got the opportunity to dredge that channel every twice a year, put it around on Brookie's Beach. Just still in the harbour, and we'd actually extend the parking.
So I think this is the question I like to come through is saying, the money that's collected of all these launching boats and parking fees goes into a fund that goes back to look after the recreational boat people and keep the fund specifically for that.
Harbour man.
And I think that should come through in a statement.
okay, so the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board has no comment on the proposed fees and charges except that boat users be required to pay charges on the parking boat ramp. And then what we use to
And that the funds are kept for the improve the assets
Yeah,
for the harbour and,
maintenance, harbour.
And boat users.
yeah, for the boat user people. It's for the,
Currently, we have charges down at Billy Point.
Are both the ramps here charged?
And what about Pleasant Point? The Pleasant
no, nothing is Pleasant Point.
So it's just Royal Billy Point.
Yeah.
Well, Pleasant Point's got a boat ramp too, so it's exactly the same rules should apply.
Well, yeah, they haven't, this is the carry on about it. It's not there, you see. There's not one at Pleasant Point. And there's
There
not-
is. There's a concrete boat ramp.
No, no, but there's not a charging station, not a.
No, there should be.
Same.
Same
No,
as
no, let's make the rules.
So then you want to change that to boat users be required to pay charges on Parku and Pleasant Point boat ramps.
Let's get it uniform.
Because the first time I heard that every town's got to have one boat ramp that doesn't get charged was from Andrew Bowden last time.
Yeah.
Last time.
Did you?
First time I heard of that.
We haven't got a boat rent and we still have to pay. Don't worry,
Yeah,
it's
it's
right
one-
up my nose.
Is the concrete ramp for something or?
It's not a boat rent that's used by everybody. It's just
I know,
it's
it's not used by everyone.
And it's not the value of what people want to use it for.
Okay, so
Not every,
you guys happy with that?
This is round the mulberry bush.
And I think you need to put in there that the funds collected are reinvested into
Harbour facility.
harbour facilities or something like that.
Retained.
You just want to lock that fund up so it's not being spent somewhere else.
It's not being sent to the big slush fund.
Yes. They reinvested into harbour facilities.
Into boating and harbour facilities. Boating, but we're boating.
Otherwise we'll wind up paying these wages.
All right, okay, so go back to the report.
I think, is that all you're talking about, the fees that interest people?
Got a couple of points of.
Charges.
Yeah.
Got a couple of points of clarification.
Yes, yes.
Just a couple of points of clarification based on the discussions that you've had. This doesn't help the paper, but just so everyone knows, the waste management minimisation plan was actually out for consultation, closed early on this month. So councillors will have a look at that in its entirety ahead of approval in June. So that's a separate piece of work that's underway, but obviously it lines up with the submission from the annual plan. Now, we talked earlier about the retained earnings, and I just wanted to give the figures around what we talked about. So we were sort of like, so Terry talked about the district retained earnings. So in an original revision, it was 1.4. Now it's likely to be 2 million from the district, and that will result in a saving originally 1.6 and now around about 2% overall. In terms of the ward areas, they are included. All of the other wards are around about 100k savings, they're 50%. So they've got 200 in their budgets roughly, and that will result in a 0.1% saving. For Tairua-Pauanui, you're forecast to have around about 650 odd. So 320k savings would be a 0.4% reduction in your local rates.
Yeah.
So that's what's proposed for TPAD.
I think that money's
Better off to sit there.
sit there, because you're going to use that money. Until you've got a project that's going to suck it up.
Yeah.
Trying
The 0.4% it is.
Okay. And just to confirm, Dean's just confirmed, the actual parts of the 11.4 rates increase, it's only 4.8%, not 5.1 like it first said. So yes, just to clarify that.
After waste minerals,
Just the question on that money that's sitting in the bank. Interest rates have gone up quite dramatically. Where do we negotiate money that's just sitting there?
Through the chair, that would be a question for finance. I'm sure we're always looking at interest rates on our borrowings and what we have on our accounts.
They actually,
Probably only paper money.
Yeah.
they've got reinvestments coming all the time, and they do it through local government New Zealand, which is a very, very good rate.
And the other thing I should have mentioned to put a disclaimer on it, those figures are based off our second quarter forecast, not our third quarter forecast or our final end of year. So obviously if our operational teams spend a whole lot more this year, then there'll be less. If they spend a whole lot less this year, then there'll be more going to retained earnings.
I think if we just go back to fees, there's a couple of things that should be noted, and that is the replacement of the parks and concessions all areas fee.
Sure.
So it's dropped to $350, and there's got a transition license fee of $50. Just to note that one.
Yeah.
And the other one was the removal of library fines to encourage people to use libraries. So you don't get fined if you keep your books for too long now. So
The library funds would encourage people to bring the buggers back.
And how much does it actually generate though?
But it gets your books back.
when you look at the numbers using the library, they look pretty challengeable at the moment. So this is the way they hope to try and get people to use the library. This is the discussion at the council table. So I don't know if they're going to work or not. It's just a proposal at the moment. But I said I'm not going to get fined if you keep your books too long. And I think the other one there is the water user fee increases to reflect the cost. So it's going from $1.37 to $1.50 something. I think it is a cubic meter. So it's just the rate's gone up. Okay, that's all of it. Okay.
I can't remember so long ago. Did we have a movement in a second? We did. So I'll put the motion again. That the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board receives the draft 23-24 annual plan. Tairua-Pauanui Community Board submission report dated 1 March 2023, noting the current changes. All in favour, say aye.
Aye.
The contrary, no, thank you, carried. 20.1. Community Board CAPEX work program, have a move in a second, please.
Yep.
Seconder?
Yeah.
Thank you. Right,
Okay.
there's anyone coming on?
I'm speaking to these.
No, this would be somebody online from project team, no? Joy.
Yeah.
Andrew Bowden's online, correct?
All right, moving on.
Mike's the one.
Are you there, Andrew?
Turn his microphone. Well, let's move on
Move,
down.
move on through it.
Move on down to, yeah, this is on track, Pauanui South End barbecue. Delays. Poor weather. Are you going to talk to that or it's just going to happen?
From the, reads have been cut off. It wants to say these, sorry. Barbecue base installed due to, my understanding is that the parks guys have been dealing with the Pauanui ratepayers and that work should be completed very shortly, if not already, and
Hasn't been done yet. Is they're trying to get a time slot with school. Actually,
yeah, the storming, yeah, so that everything's here, it's just waiting for storm.
Action reserves. You should get a similar, I got a question there, I note in there that further work delayed until the cyclone cleanup. Who does the actual cleanup? And I'm referring to some down at the over in Tairua by the Marae Road Causeway. There are some piles of
Morning.
and
See you, but I can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Andrew, can you hear us?
Yeah, I couldn't see you, just. I can hear
just
you
want to
now.
know.
Good one, Lee.
Yeah, who's
I'll follow that up. Yes.
Oh, yeah. I had a great list. Now, you know, the storm down the Esplanade Road there, where it's been seriously eroded. Yeah. Does Jamie have something in mind to
Secure it. Fill it up.
yeah.
I'll follow up with Jamie.
Well,
It's eating hell out of that.
if it's nothing, I mean, we're gonna lose our road.
Yeah, it needs rocks or something piled in there.
Well, I think even better than that, some decent piles and backboarding and
Oh, there's probably.
deep piling of its needs. And while we're on parks and reserves, we have a catamaran sitting down there on the Esplanade. It's been there for a long, long time. And again, the mowers have been mowing around it. I mean, and it's got a boom. It's a hazard. No, it's down on the ground there now. It needs to be removed. The guy, well, I'm not going to name names, but I know who owns it. But it needs to be removed. He's got free parking with this thing down there. People can't access the reserve.
I'll follow that up with Byers.
I obviously.
So while we're talking about that, what is there a reason that the barbecue's not being cleaned down there? Last contract used to keep them spotless every day. This one, they get the bloody grease and cracking all over the top of them.
Through the chair, we do have Andrew Foden on the line now. We do have a difficulty with this laptop, so Kelly is able to give him some volume there. It is not ideal, and we'll look into the technology after this.
Good morning.
Oh, morning, Andrew.
Okay, so I'll follow up the budget, that's an RFS anyway, so I'll follow that RFS up with. Actually, these are actually all RFSs.
Yeah, they have.
So they're all RFSs and they should have been run through. But we're moving right along.
You want to talk about skate park?
No, there's a report, as it says on the update there.
Can I just, where are we up to? Sorry.
So we're up to the Tairua skate park, so, there's a report going to council.
On the
There's a
fourth.
meeting with the, community reference group on the 30th. For the final design, and then the final design is being presented to council on the 4th of April. Sorry?
So I got a question, if I can, just going back to footpaths on that. So in this annual plan, you'll see that the footpath construction and streetlight improvements budget for community boards has been removed. This is because the funding of these activities has been removed, so we had to prioritise where we want the limited funding available to go, and this being placed against capital projects to support economic development. So there's no streetlight or footwork budget in next year's budget.
Good pass it all.
No.
So if you go back to the,
Andrew was just saying about that.
Oh, Andrew, you have a comment?
Yes. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, just.
Sorry, what's the question?
so the footwork, the footpath and streetlight budgets are out for next year. So the question is that at the moment around these footpath construction, rehabilitation and streetlight renewals. There's budget money still available to do things this year that we can use it all up.
Yes, there is. For footpaths, yeah.
So we just need to identify where those are and get that work done before the 30th of June, and then we can capitalise on that funds that are in the budget now. So we'll come back to you with a bit of a story around that, Andrew.
Yes, Terry, through the chair.
Can I ask Andrew, what sort of lighting do we have? Because we've had problems with some places where they've got lights which are so bright that blind people look around. Are we having down lights for this?
I think there's a standard lantern that we use that throughout the district. I haven't heard any previous comments about the intensity of the lights, to be honest with you, but we do use a standard lantern across the district.
It's an LED light, isn't it? It's more down.
Correct. That's correct. That's correct, Terry.
More of a down light.
Yeah, it is correct.
So just note that to the board that if you've got work for its footpaths that you need some work done on, now's the time.
That's the rehabilitation.
Anything left at the 30th of June will go into the ether.
Yeah, we'll lose it. Yeah, understood. So that 23,920 less than 54955. I will find out where that will be used, and I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Which streets?
Yeah.
Can I just come back to you on
investigations?
So if I could just ask through the chair, can Andrew, the Holland Place
I've got an
project,
update.
which is targeted to spend $1.2 million.
Yeah.
Is that program on track to do that before the 30th of June?
It is. Just as an update, Terry, through the chair, Storms Contracting will be contracted very shortly to do the driveway construction and install some channel excavation and pipes, and also do the in-stream maintenance work. So that will, I'm not sure exactly what the cost of that is, but Storms will be doing that work. And also we've contacted a surveyor again, and he will be checking the profile of the stream after the cyclone. So that's going to happen very shortly. There is some other work that we're going to tender, the bypass construction, very shortly. So I'm confident that we might not use it all, Terry, but I can't tell you exactly how much.
And
Okay.
regardless of that, whatever we don't use, I think we've got about 400,000 that's going over into next year as well. That will go into next year.
Right, so it'd be great if they can finish that work plan for this year before 30th of June. There'll be a real big plus for Gordon.
I think the work that Storm will is doing, Terry, through the chair, will be started next month.
Is that after they get rid of the sandhill down at Royal Billy Point?
Oh,
Andrew?
I'm not sure, Terry. Warwick, I'm not sure.
It's turned into a slide at the moment. The kids love it. They're down there, boogie boards on it. It'll all be back in the water shortly. It needs to be got rid of.
Okay. I'll speak to Wayne Price about that.
Yeah.
So just talking about that dredging work around the Royal Billy Point out to the channel, the digger, has he started working on that, removing that?
Oh, it's the sandhill I'm talking about.
Oh, that's the thing.
Sandhill.
That he's dug it out of there and put it onto the thing. Okay.
Now the kids are trying to put it back in the channel.
Right. So there was a request around from Bob to use that sand for replenishing, and I think Jamie was.
I have no knowledge of that at all.
Right, okay, maybe he
I'm
can,
afraid to say.
because it makes sense to try and reuse it if you can.
No, it does, yeah.
Well, it was going to go back up north side or south side of the Billy Point. Yeah. I'm no scientist. I don't want to get involved in that.
All right, so I'll follow that up with Jamie, that we're
Yeah, where's that going?
Yeah.
And some clarity around it, because I think there's a real concern within the community that should be really good for replenishing or some of the beach.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Well, it has to be.
it could be all restraints with the reasonable consent, but
I
I'll
think
get
so.
that clarity from Jamie.
Cost the cabin and stuff too.
Yeah.
Originally, on the information I read, if I've read it correctly, it was to go along that beach further up past Royal Billy Point.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's where the consent.
not to be piled in a big heap where it is now.
No.
Now, the contractors were unable to move it. They're busy on the road.
Okay.
Any other questions for Andrew? There none. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Warwick. Bye-bye.
All right. Action. Oh, right. Did we get a move in a second for the work program? We did. So I'll put the motion that we receive the Tairua-Pauanui Board KPEX work program dated 22-23 and other operational information updates. Report dated 3rd of March 23.
Just before you do that, sorry, I've got a list of stuff that was rolled over to be carried forward into this year. I was going to quickly go through them, and maybe Eileen can confirm these. So the car park seals that were done, were they done? $127,000? You know?
I know the
Probably to get Andrew back.
And the Kennedy Park Fitness,
That was done.
that was done. Okay. Tory Park Tennis refacing,
It's done.
that's done.
Yeah.
Holland Coast Stream, we talked about that, and the Pauanui Playground, was that done too? Was it?
Yeah.
It was done.
I think.
That reseal, was that,
It was delayed because of weather.
was the entrance into the, Tairua Cemetery?
That's been done.
Been done.
It's been done. Okay, I just wanted to.
There was a Kennedy Park access road, south. Billy Point. Yeah, I think it's, well, there's still a yellow section, but I know some of it's been done. And I might know.
Okay, move action schedule.
Royal Billy Point. Ceiling. Okay. Check that out. Where are we? Oh, we put the motion. All in favour? Yeah. Action schedule.
I just want to make one alteration on here. The Pauanui Neighbourhood Support incorporated, that action should be closed and removed. That was actually the Tairua information tender. Laurie, Franks and Dylan from the police actually came and addressed the board at that networking meeting in January. And I've worked through that process with, so that needs to be, that shouldn't actually be on that action schedule.
Okay. So do you want some more discussion around the action schedule points, or is that what you want to do? So I've got some things I've written down here that aren't on the action schedule. So the footpath from the walk bridge to Tairua town. Should that be on there somewhere? This is the footpath from the,
That will be part of your LTP.
it will go into the LTP?
Grand Street Bridge.
Yeah.
Oh, any, oh,
So I just wanted to know where that fits into there.
We've got three over now.
The Hikawai District Trust walkway from Tairua-Pauanui, were we up with that?
So the
What are
Hawaii District Trust have a funding agreement with,
is that continuing on?
you, when it comes up for renewal next year, then the community board will.
we had an update on.
Oh, we've had an update. The last update was the bridge. As far as I'm aware, sorry.
Right, so, so that funding's in place for this year as well, it's in
Yeah.
place, $50,000. Okay. The Hikawai Bridge deck to replace the steel, that was done, I suppose, fixed on that one there.
Yeah.
The Hikawai Hall Incorporated Society, was that ever resolved?
The Hawaii Hall Committee did not, well, they advised that at this stage they would not be setting up an incorporated society.
Right.
So property team will work through them with that.
So that's, I don't know if this is the right place to start, but this is really about the halls and saying in this time of need, should we be reaching out to them and saying, do they need to have a rental in place, rental system in place? How do we deal with that, Ryan? How do we
So,
bring that to the
as far as
cafe?
I'm aware, all the other community halls in the district, well, I think there may be one other one that doesn't need to be an incorporated society to be able to receive any funds. So at the moment, the Hawaii Hall do have a funding agreement, which this will be the 23-24 year will be the last year. And until such time as they form an incorporated society, they will not be able to receive any funds from council.
So I'm just going to throw this question up and it maybe goes down for a discussion for the future, but do we need to make halls rentable, or should we just have a booking unit and people to come and book them? If it's good for a
Are
day?
you talking about council administering the booking system? For
No, just a community group administering the booking system.
the Hawaii Hall, they.
Yeah,
do
they
their
do that scenario, which makes sense to me, and the hall's available and being used.
Yep.
We pay depreciation, we pay maintenance costs, it's all part of coming through the rating system. Why isn't that hall being used everywhere else? So.
Yeah, maintenance on the outside, don't we?
Yes.
Part of the lease, so that was the other issue, is they actually don't have a lease on that hall, other community halls do. They don't actually have a lease.
Take away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at a hall like, say, Whangamata's Hall, they don't have a booking person there, they have
And that's
council as a booking person.
because that's a district hall,
Yeah, it's a district hall.
so they've.
But what about
council actually run-
Tairua?
Tairua is it's a community hall and it's run,
We have a committee.
and they have a.
Do they have to fundraise to use it?
They do not, well, they are currently fundraising to put a roof on the old library, the old annex,
That's not.
which is, yeah, it's not in my council.
You can see where I'm heading with this, I'm trying
Yeah,
to
this has
say,
been,
these halls should be
this has
used.
been on the books for
Yeah,
some years now,
Yeah.
about,
we've never addressed it.
it's quite a sore point with our hall.
Yeah.
At home, our community hall, because they pay a lease. Which they're okay with, but they also pay rates and insurance. And
Yeah,
it's
so they-
slipped through on their lease agreement.
Yeah, so they would come
It's
to the
big money.
council for a community grant to help
Yeah.
pay for the hall, which is money going round. We're gonna ask, is this all just bookwork and administration? When it could be just said, there's the hall guys, organise it, make it, use it. To me, that makes sense, because all we're doing is putting administration fees into a money go round scenario. We need to address it. We need
I
to
thought
talk about it.
council were going to look at this
Well,
overall. They've got how many halls on the peninsula?
well, some of the district calls, if they book for over a day or longer, they need the money coming in's worth it, you know? The big,
They have a standard set of fees, don't they?
well, at the moment, they pay for everything, you know, they're coming in for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and I reckon if you're less than a day in a community group, you should get it for nothing. Over a day, maybe you pay for it, I don't know, there's some rules that need to be made around the district halls, but for local halls, it should be free, it should be there to
The
use.
local community group, so like for Tairua, they set their own highage fees. Council only set the highage fees for the district halls.
Yeah, so what does the local hall, what do they do with the money from the local hall highage? They pay fees and rates and things like that.
Pay the maintenance inside the
They
building.
pay the inside maintenance,
Yeah.
Things like
Seems
air
odd to me.
conditioners and repolishing the floor and.
which is subject to a community grant too. They've just put new aircon in recently.
So they're
Well,
asking
true,
for the money to use a
that-
hall which we're paid for and maintaining. It's money going around anyway. To me, it needs a discussion. You know, now we're gonna have no money for grants or help them talk with their rates this year, have we? Where are they gonna get that money from?
Yeah, well, I'm waiting for the lease to come up because believe me, next time round there's going to be. I mean, they've dug their heels and having to pay rates on a building that's owned by a council,
That is rubbish.
this has never made sense to me.
No.
And even to insure a building that's owned by council.
And these are volunteer groups that are helping the community by doing assets and providing avenues for people to enjoy. It seems
Yes.
madness. Anyway, it needs a discussion because to me, it's just money go around fest and nothing.
Where does it need the discussion to start?
Well, that's what I'm asking. Should it go on the Ashton schedule for the future? It just got to be logged in somewhere. It's got to be there.
Put it on the action schedule.
Put it in the Ashton schedule.
All right.
I got a couple more comments. Just going to carry on with
The,
this.
the footpath, there's another one. Do you want that on the action schedule?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a key part of what we need to sort out down.
Sandra's legacy.
The council office in Tairua with digital communication. So again, it's about the Tairua side getting a place that's got good digital
Oh,
for meetings. At the moment, going to a boating club is short term in my mind.
Well, there's a proper facility up there in their boardroom.
Yeah, but it's short term. It's not
Yes, it will
council.
be.
Council should have these buildings set up like they are everywhere else
Yep.
around the district.
Yep.
And I suppose the Mania hub will be the result of that. Is that right?
hopefully.
So we're trying to push that forward. So that's kind of makes sense. So it should go on there as well as making sure that digital control is put into the building to make sure we've got a really good. Now that we've got a quorum from people online, a lot of people doing it from distance now. The transportation plan for town. So when we talked about regional council coming forward with this plan to put in a bus service and connecting towns.
Really don't blame me.
I don't know how it's all going to go, but I think that needs to be on there to keep it alive.
I think it needs to disappear. Yeah.
And did we ever get through the Vodafone and the Spark cell phone tower business? Is that all been resolved?
Not sure where that sits at the moment. I'm waiting for action.
And there's a siren issue that's been hanging around for a while as well. We
Tsunami.
need some discussion. So that's my points. I think we need to be on the schedule so they're not lost.
Early warnings.
It's an early one, but there was some discussion, I think, with the network meetings, the possibility of there's no problem to have a local one in addition to whatever else might happen.
Yeah, I think there's some people in this room who are very close to that, and most of them will keep us informed as they go along.
Thanks.
Are there any further? Is there any further discussion on the action schedule? Do we have a move and a seconder? Can I have a move and a seconder, please?
Yeah.
For the motion that we receive the action schedule reported 14th of March 2023. No further discussion. Can all in favour, please say aye. Contrary, thank you. You now close the meeting.
No.
Do you
No.
want- do you want
general business.
Not close the meeting.
So under general business, I'd like to talk about the Parks Reserve Subcommittee group and where we are with that. We promised ourselves we'll put these groups together, and I'd like to see one for harbour care, one for parks, and one for beach, for reserves.
Yeah.
Has there been any work done on it?
Yes, there has, and we will update the board at the networking meeting on the different options that are available to be able to pick those up. Dean and myself are just working on that with governance. How that can be set up.
Okay, so that raised my next question about the network meeting. Is the network meeting for pressure groups to meet with the board or staff to meet with the board?
Yes, then through the chair, the networking meeting was designed based on feedback from the last outgoing councillors, but they wanted some allotted time to basically do the fact, talk about projects, meet with people, do site visits, that type of thing. So it's actually up to yourselves how you use it. I have a document that was circulated to the chairs on Friday. It's a bit of a proposal with how we do that, with a bit of a Eileen's got a bit of a roster as to who we'd like to meet with moving forward. So for example, I think in April, we'd like to meet with the Tairua-Pauanui Residents and Ratepayers groups, go and have a look at a couple of projects together. Eileen have a couple of work program updates, and then we can also chew the fat and listen to the feedback that you've got in the groups that you've met with. So I can, once we've had a chat with the chair about it, I can circulate that.
So how's the selection of groups, how does it work? Does the board sit down and decide which pressure groups to talk to, or does the staff recommend to the board which group to meet with? How does it work?
So through the chair, the proposal is you've got your list of groups and you might enter it. You would assign a person who's going to go and meet with those groups. Terry, you may go and meet with the Residents and Ratepayers group at Pauanui, come back in networking and say, like, hey, Pauanui raised 4, 5 and 6 issues. Number 6 here, we really want to have a good look at, let's have a conversation around it. And then if the board considers that a priority, and that's something that we would look to work towards, what needs to happen, do any reports, do any site visit, do any further understanding. So all of that is contained in the proposal that we sent through to the board chairs.
So the other day, we had a meeting with 3 ratepayers groups in one hit. Really good. Could get feedback from both sides, what they're working on. I thought it was fantastic. It'd be great if all the board had been for that meeting to hear the views from the different people and how they're dealing with them. So I think that's one of the great things I say about networking groups, is getting those key groups that have got commonalities. And I would imagine there'd be one there for this Parks and Reserve group, beach care and harbour care groups to come together as one group or one unit to talk around the table about the issues. That's the kind of thing I'm saying has been beneficial, but I don't know if I'm off track.
So again, the proposal's got some things like that to consider. So there's no reason why, rather than having just a reserve group set up and then doing their stuff with our parks thing, there's no reason why we couldn't decide, hey, okay, in August, we're going to go and meet with that reserve group and have a real good walkover and have a look at the things that are of interest to us and plan it as a site visit. Now, I will say, just looking at some of the other boards, some of them have gone lots of meetings in one go, and then the next meeting they've done lots of briefings. We've only had 2 networking so far. My only concern is it might be very heavy if you have lots and lots of guests all in one go and then lots and lots of briefings in one go, which is why the proposal for the chairs is that you try and have maybe a group, maybe a briefing, some time for you to feedback on who you've been meeting with and talk about the stuff that the board wants to talk about informally. And trying to get that balance right, but it's really up to you guys how you want to structure it.
Yeah, we had the chairs and maybe the deputy chairs, so it wasn't a big group really, 6 people. So you could have 3 key groups. I just think about getting commonality around the groups, that they've all got the similar issues. And out of them, you'll get the key drivers that make us think about where we should be going. To me, that's a directional thing that I'm asking for.
I think just through the chair, because you've only met twice, the thing that you're missing now is actually having a schedule of what we're going to do and who we're going to go and meet with, so you can look at it and be comfortable with it.
Yeah, well, we haven't developed it.
And that would line up with the schedule of what will be in the board meetings as well, that Ariana and her team are working on. And then you'll be able to see that synergy. Okay, well, we'll be able to go and look at that project a couple of months ahead of when we think a paper will come about that project. So we'll get our heads around that.
So that's what we're trying to understand, is how that information flow from those meetings moves to the next stage.
Yeah.
We are struggling to find that next step.
Yeah.
So while it's around the table with chatting and writing notes, what happens to all that, you know? And that's really, we need to bring that back into some sort of common sense, and we can prioritise what we think is important out of that.
On the action schedule.
And then put it somewhere and then get some action out of it.
Well, I think currently, the most pressing discussion we should be having is civil defence. The result of Gabriel, I was not here down over it, but there's some glaring problems through this whole community, both sides, out of Hikawai. Once the power went down, it was chaos. I mean, I know there was a group that was up and running it at home. I don't know what happened over here, but there needs to be a decent sort of a discussion on the next time. We need to be far better prepared.
Communication became a major issue.
Oh,
I know talking to some of the people in Pauanui, the Tairua group.
So we did.
Because we lost cell phone internet. And I guess you guys had exactly the same issue.
We've had Claire Speed running the Student Affairs Welfare Centre. And the other person who had been trained wasn't able to come because she was stuck in Paris. So everyone pitched in, but she's writing recommendations. Why don't you invite her for the next network meeting?
Through the chair, without predetermining where Warwick and I have got to already, there's no reason why I said in April we're going to go out and have a look at, I'm going to look at a couple of things. There's no reason why you couldn't do that and then have someone from civil defence come in and have a good discussion about that. The challenge would be just working through your list of priorities and how you want instruction. So, but I've heard clearly that there's no other priority than that.
Well, that's one of the key ones, and I think the response groups in each area have got some leadings out of it. I thought the Whangatawa was really good, but again, there was some hierarchy pressure from above from teams saying, what the hell you guys are doing? We said, well, we've got no contact with you. You know, things like having a sat phone is really important in these situations. There's one in each area for people to use, you know, those kind of things came out of it. And so they set up walkie-talkie with all the key people. So there was a local contact. It was fantastic. And every morning we had a meeting at 10 o'clock and it got some back pressure from teams thinking that they were losing control. So the decision has to be, there's a meeting in Hamilton this week about it, the review. And then we do need somebody to come around and talk about these response groups and how they should be formed.
Thames doesn't fit in our, when we've got a problem here.
We're stuck.
Thames don't, they're not going to do anything for us.
Well, look, I think I said one road, it's underwater every time you look at it.
Yeah. So, and look, when this first,
The control thing actually needs to be local, because you've got such a discrete. Pauanui becomes a discrete thing by itself.
Yeah.
We became Tairua, became a discrete one, and I think Whirianga did too. And from the day, we were all cut off. So control from Thames ain't going to.
I know, I agree with you, but teams are the gods.
yeah.
They had 135 people in that centre over there, so
They're all sitting there for 3 months.
they had them from Christchurch, New Plymouth, Wellington, all over the country up there. So they feel like they want to be in control. So understanding how it works is important. So we need to have that discussion.
We want to talk to them for most of the time.
I know. Anyway, I think the response, the community response groups are key to it, and I think that was what they wanted to set up anyway. When things went wrong, there was always part of Pamela's world to set up response groups. So I support them 100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting back to this, the networking groups, I mean, other than the resident ratepayers who are always attending this part of their role. I was hoping to get out further. You know, there's a big base of a lot of little groups and areas.
Where's the boating club? Where's the ocean
Yeah,
sports
the
club?
other ones, and you know, I am talking to them, and I had talked to them about the Harbour Care, and I've talked to the gardening club, which has 60 odd members over there. So I have sowed the seeds, and I'm just waiting now to get some response.
Well, I think we need a pathway, and that's what we're asking. Get us the pathway to make things happen. Otherwise, it's a talk fest.
Yeah, well, you know, I guess we've got to have the talk fest initially, but then we've got to collar these people and push your arm a bit, and ask for their, because they've all got opinions, but we hear them around the grapevine. We don't get them actually, around the table. So that's my goal.
So my next question is around these meetings. So I know that Councillor Gottlieb has raised these before, but also we need to have some timeframes around if we want to have an input or have an agenda item considered by you and Eileen, we need to know in advance so we can put that down on paper and send it to you and say, this is what we'd like to be raised at the meeting, and then you can decide whether it should be part of the meeting agenda or not. And I'd like to see that.
We're getting hold of Kelly, is that?
Just in response, we've heard that, and we've anticipated that. So at the networking meetings, we plan to have a schedule of upcoming meetings with all their agendas, a schedule of networking meetings with all their agendas. So that will become a first discussion point. And then we're planning for the detailed meetings. At that point, there'll be a process whereby the board is consulted on the agenda, and there should be no surprises. But we've heard that we need to know the timeframes so you can feed in to your chair the bits that you'd like he or she to champion for you.
So that's what you're going to tell us in the timeframes.
Yeah,
But we don't want it to be a bureaucracy-driven world. All we're asking.
No point being too far in advance either, because we need to.
We just want to
pop things in the crop up.
Yeah, we just want to say, hey, we think this is important. Consider it.
Again, we're involving staff. So if we put something in there, staff have to have a time.
No,
Look at
you're a chair, you can put something on the agenda that you're happy to discuss without a report. They're saying they want to report to everything, and I'm saying to you, no, you don't need a report for everything. If there's an issue round, like putting a place when the light bulb was in the wrong spot, we don't need a report over it. We just need to raise it at a meeting, and at that discussion, we can say, yes, this is important, put it on the action schedule, or no, we can resolve it, move on.
through the chair, so you need reports for decisions. And I don't know the reason why, but she can correct me if I'm wrong, or Kelly might. But the idea is that in our networking, we'll be talking about what's coming forward. We'll have it sort of planned out. You'll know, hey, look, these are the papers that are coming up, and you'll be able to see roughly where it fits. Like Chris said, there'll be times where things have to shuffle around. And then that meeting with the chair should be more straightforward.
Well, if he decides it's important, it will go into the work schedule. From the work schedule will be raised through a system, then a report will be brought to a meeting. So it's got some grunt there. If it doesn't get that far, it's gone and moved on.
And it hadn't cost anything.
It hasn't cost anything.
And sometimes, because of the local knowledge, it can be, you don't need a report, you actually know the problem, and that resolution can be passed. No more, so. You know,
And say, look, that's a roading issue, we'll pass that on to Ed and he can sort it out. You know, it can be just as easy as that. So we don't need a lot of bureaucracy going on. Because that to us is costing money, time, that we don't need when we can sit around the table and openly discuss something that's not part of a report, but part of a that's happened between the last meeting and this meeting. That's what we're after.
Just take the frustration out.
I'd like to be able to see the, moving on, the, people that fund the various contracts at some of these meetings too. Like who is responsible in the council for looking after the Parks and Reserves contract?
That's Derek.
Yeah, Derek. Or in the old days, Lou.
Yeah.
Why can't these guys come in so we can ask questions?
So through the chair, we have had a discussion with Bruce about the availability of park staff for if we establish a reserve group. He's made them available, but also if, like I said earlier, the whole of the board wanted to have a focus on parks and reserves, saying it's August meeting, then yes, we would get the right staff here and be able to talk about maybe some of the nuances in the contract, some of the
Comments, technical.
some of the, you know, some of the things that staff are needing to manage.
Yeah, and when do we get, Parks and Reserve supervisor over this side? Pardon? Well, Lou's only doing what, 2 days a week if you do that?
So those 2 days, Tuesday, Tuesday. But yeah, the rest of it is,
I haven't seen him in months.
I like Dean's idea. Get it on the agenda. We could fill a day in on that deal. Anyway. You,
Just to his question, who is the new Parks and Reserves manager?
Parks and Reserves Manager is Derek.
No, who's the local guy that's Lou's replacement?
We haven't got one at this time.
There was one
yeah,
a while ago.
he couldn't,
I'm not actually party to talk to about stuff. And
Well, just tell me, is he gone? Is he not, is he left?
Through the chair, they're still in the recruitment process. They haven't actually completed recruitment.
Yeah, well, that's all I need to know. There's currently there's no person in that position.
Yeah.
Right.
But as I'm going through the chair, as I said earlier, Gareth will make himself available if we need to talk about parks issues.
Well, I think we do, because these reserve groups are going to be really key. So he's going to have to really be engaged.
They're gonna have a lot of good things to do.
well, we did it our last board meeting. We had him online. Nothing's happened since then, but.
That's me.
Okay. I know. All right, I'll do the meeting closed and stop the recording, please. Well, thank you for your attendance.
Did you like to